War equals pain.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is no mercy, only law, and to enforce that law, the Adeptus Arbites. But what does it cost to become one of these so-called enforcers of Imperial justice? What's the price of order in a galaxy that knows only war? Today, you'll walk through hell. This isn't just lore. This is a guided nightmare, a psychological descent into the very system that crushes both the criminal and the enforcer. From the first moment a recruit is chosen or taken, to the final trials that leave only the most brutal survivors, this video is your front row seat to the horrifying reality of the Adeptus Arbites. Ask yourself, could you survive it? Or would you be judged unworthy before you even spoke a word? Before we begin, understand this. In the Imperium, ignorance isn't bliss. It's a sentence. And knowledge, it's pain. You see, the Adeptus Arbites aren't just judges. They are the Imperium's final word. Executioners of Imperial law on worlds where law barely exists. But they're not born into this power. They are made, forged, broken. Every second of their training is a rejection of individuality. Every moment of hesitation is punished. Every question is a test, and failure means death. Most won't make it through indoctrination, and those who do often wish they hadn't. This isn't war like the Guard. This isn't faith like the ecclesiarchy. This is law, hard, cold, absolute. And the men and women who wield it must become less than human to enforce it. Recruits are stripped of their names. Their voices are silenced. Not metaphorically, literally. Muzzles, gags, electroshock. Their ability to speak is removed so that only doctrine speaks through them. Pain isn't a side effect. It's the curriculum. But why? Why subject someone to this level of psychological and physical torment? Because in the eyes of the Imperium, true justice must not be flawed by empathy, weakness, or doubt. The law is the law. You follow it, or you are erased. This is not about fairness. It is about control. The Adeptus Arbites are the tool through which the Imperium crushes rebellion, dissent, and chaos before they can take root. They are the final measure, called upon when all other methods fail. If a world resists tithes, they arrive. If heresy grows within the PDF, they arrive. If an inquisitor demands unyielding enforcement, they arrive. But before they can uphold the terror, they must endure it themselves. The initiation isn't a process. It's a demolition. The self is erased violently. Their past, their culture, their memories, all seen as liabilities to impartial justice. What remains is something new, something terrifying, something useful. And if the system breaks them too soon, then they were never worthy of enforcing the Emperor's law. This video will take you deeper than codices ever dared, past the armor, past the bolt pistol, into the agonizing rituals of reconditioning, the indoctrination chambers, the forced confessions and punishment drills, the moral purging sessions, and the final psychological filter known only as the tribunal. We will walk with the recruit as their mind is shattered and rebuilt. We will witness their first taste of power, their first execution, their first lesson in zero mercy. You will come to understand the black and white worldview that must be hardwired into them, that ambiguity is weakness and leniency is treason. We will study their methods, not just their madness. How law is upheld without trial. How fear is institutionalized. How even planetary governors kneel when an Arbite's judge arrives. You will see what it truly means to give your life not to the Emperor, but to the law of the Imperium. And as we go deeper, you might start to feel the dread yourself. The creeping sense that in their world, you too would be found guilty, not because of what you've done, but because you exist outside their control. Even silence is seen as suspicion. Even neutrality is seen as defiance. In the Imperium, to live without submission is to live under judgment. So take a deep breath. Forget everything you know about police, military, or justice systems. In this universe, the law does not serve the people. The people serve the law, and the law is brutal. You're not just going to learn what an Arbites is. You're going to become one, at least for the next hour. And by the end, if you still think the law is noble, you weren't paying attention. Welcome to the pain. To understand the pain, you first have to understand the power. The Adeptus Arbites are not police. They are not soldiers. They are not peacekeepers. They are enforcers of Imperial law. And that law does not care about fairness, context, or individual rights. It is absolute, and they are its fists. Most people in the Imperium will never see an Arbites. That's how terrifying they are. Their arrival is not a patrol, it's a reckoning. When an Arbites detachment steps onto a world, it means something has already gone catastrophically wrong. A governor has failed. A rebellion brews. The planetary defense forces are compromised. This is not a neighborhood dispute. This is the Emperor's law descending from orbit to remind you who owns your breath. Their authority comes directly from the Lex Imperialis, the central, sacred body of law crafted by the High Lords of Terra. It's not interpreted. It's enforced word for word, with no tolerance for deviation. And the Arbites aren't just trained to follow it. They're programmed to become it. Think of them as the judges, juries, and executioners of entire worlds with zero appeal. But here's the catch. They don't care about your local customs. They don't care that your planet's traditions conflict with Imperial law. They don't care if your actions were justified by necessity. The law is the law. Period. Their job is not to understand. It's to correct. You stole because your child was starving? That's theft. You led a protest against food rationing. That's sedition. You refused to report a heretic neighbor? That's conspiracy. Every infraction is a crack in the great machine of the Imperium, and the Arbites exist to seal those cracks with blood, if necessary. They are not universally deployed across the galaxy, like the Astra Militarum or the Space Marines. Instead, they are based out of fortified precinct fortresses on hive worlds, sector capitals, and major administrative planets. These fortresses are not police stations. They are citadels, self-sustaining fortresses capable of crushing uprisings from within their own walls. Inside, thousands of Arbites may live, train, and prepare for rapid deployment across planetary systems. Their fleets are armed. Their transports are armored. Their gear is elite. And their methods? Efficient, brutal, and unflinching. Their weaponry reflects their doctrine. Shotguns, suppression shields, executioner mauls, shock batons, bolt pistols, even cybermastiffs. Every tool they carry is about dominance and intimidation, not finesse. And let's talk about their armor. Black, bulky, impervious, and terrifying. It isn't just for protection. It's a statement. A psychological weapon designed to erase all traces of humanity. When you see an Arbite's judge approaching, your instincts don't see a man. They see a verdict. They speak little. They ask fewer questions. They operate with internal discipline that rivals the Astartes, though without the same glory or reverence. An Arbites doesn't want to be celebrated. They want to be feared. Their presence alone can end a riot. Their judgment can depose planetary rulers. In some systems, their name is whispered more fearfully than that of chaos itself. But here's what truly separates the Arbites from every other force in the Imperium. They are incorruptible, or rather, they are designed to be, not out of moral integrity, but because their training, their culture, and their brutal indoctrination leaves no room for personal gain. An Arbite who hesitates, sympathizes, or deviates is either removed or becomes a case study in failure. And they watch each other, constantly. Internal affairs in the Arbites isn't a division. It's a full-time system of mutual judgment. Every action is recorded. Every decision is subject to review. Their own comrades will turn them in for failure without hesitation, not out of betrayal, but duty. Because failure in law enforcement is failure of the law itself. And the law is everything. Even among the Adeptus Terra, the massive, bureaucratic government of the Imperium, the Arbites are feared. They answer only to the High Lords. Even planetary governors are required to cooperate without question, or risk being charged with obstruction. A crime that carries a death sentence. Let that sink in. A governor who controls billions of lives can be executed by a single Arbite's judge if deemed obstructive. This is not fiction in universe. This is doctrine. But while their power is vast, their numbers are not. They cannot be everywhere. That's what makes them mythic, mysterious. The idea of the Arbites is just as powerful as the Arbites themselves. Like a storm that could arrive any time. And if it does, you're already too late. So when you hear that an Arbite's detachment has been deployed to your world, it means the Emperor has already lost patience. They are not peacekeepers. They are punishers. No one applies to become an Arbites. There is no exam, no invitation, no pamphlet advertising a promising career in law enforcement. To be recruited into the Adeptus Arbites is not a choice. It's a sentence. One handed down before you even know who you are. The selection process, if you can call it that, begins when you're still a child. Across the Imperium, administratum scribes comb through billions of population records, looking for specific psychological markers: obedience, detachment, a lack of empathy, emotional stunting, loyalty to hierarchy. What most would consider warning signs. The Imperium sees as raw material. If you match the profile, you disappear. Sometimes you're taken from Schola Progenium, the orphan training centers, where Imperial orphans are turned into tools. Sometimes from hive gangs, picked because of your brutality. Sometimes from civilian populations after psych evaluations, interrogations, or simple observation. The reason doesn't matter. You're gone, and your family will never see you again. If they ask questions, they might vanish too. You are now property of the Lex Imperialis. The actual abduction is clinical. One moment you're in a training drill, or sleeping, or walking to labor duty. The next, you're hooded, bound, and inside a transport. Your ears are sealed. Your mouth is silenced. Your name is erased. You will never hear it again. Your identity, your very self, is the first thing to be broken. The location of Arbites training facilities is a tightly controlled secret. Even among Imperial bureaucrats, only a handful know the coordinates. These facilities are not schools. They're not academies. They're psychological furnaces designed to burn away your humanity and leave only judgment. The moment you arrive, you're greeted not with orientation, but with violence. Recruits are lined up, blindfolded, starved, and beaten for infractions they don't understand. There are no explanations, no orders, just consequences. You're expected to intuit the rules, or die discovering them. Some scream, some fight, some beg. All are punished. And that's the point. The Arbites don't want warriors. They want compliance under terror. They want a mind that can follow law without emotion, without compassion, and without question. Training begins the second the door closes behind you, not with education, but with erasure. Your name is now a number. Your voice is forbidden. Your thoughts monitored, corrected, destroyed. Many die in the first few weeks. Some kill themselves. Some go mad. Some simply collapse from the trauma. And when they do, no one blinks. There are no funerals, no remembrances, only the silent removal of a failed experiment. And that's what you are at this stage, test. A lump of raw psychological matter being shaped by cruelty into conformity. The recruitment process isn't looking for the strongest. It's looking for the most moldable. A recruit who can be turned into a living weapon, but one that obeys not instinct, not emotion, but code. The instructors are not teachers. They are tormentors. Veterans of the Arbites who know exactly how to dismantle a soul. And they watch you constantly. You're being judged long before you ever become a judge. And here's the darkest part. If you fail training but show aptitude for ruthlessness, you might be transferred to other branches. Penal legions, the Officio Perfectus, or even servitor conditioning. The Imperium doesn't waste useful cruelty. But if you pass, if you survive the first culling, if your fear turns to obedience, your mind bends instead of breaks, and you start quoting law before you're told to, then, and only then, does your real training begin. And the horrors up to this point, they were just the interview. If recruitment is the fire that burns away your name, indoctrination is the hammer that shapes what's left. From the first day, every recruit is told, not with words, but with pain, that they are no longer a person. You are not a child of the Imperium. An instructor whispers through a vox amplifier as shock batons strike flesh. You are the Imperium. You are not a human. You are the law. This is not metaphor. This is programming. Indoctrination begins with deprivation. You are denied light, sound, and warmth. Days blend into nights until time itself dissolves. Meals are irregular, laced with compounds that suppress emotional spikes. Electroshock chairs deliver pain during sleep cycles to disrupt REM. Your body is weakened, but your mind is bombarded. Every waking moment, you are forced to recite the Lex Imperialis, page after page, clause after clause, while exhaustion eats your memory. Fail to recall a line? Punishment. Mispronounce a word? Punishment. Show hesitation? Punishment. There is no praise, only less pain. Then the sermons begin. Holographic projections of riots, heresies, and massacres are displayed while a voice explains the law's justification for mass execution. Children, entire families, even planetary populations are shown being purged. The message is clear. Mercy equals chaos. Chaos equals heresy. Heresy equals death. The recruit must feel this truth, not just know it. Next comes the Court of Masks. You are marched into a chamber where instructors, masked like judges, accuse you of crimes you've never committed. Theft, blasphemy, sedition. You are ordered to confess, punished until you do, and punished again when you finally comply. The goal is to kill your instinct for self-defense and implant a reflex. Obey the verdict, not the feeling. Some call this brainwashing. The Imperium calls it purification. This stage can last months or years, depending on how quickly the recruit breaks. Some are reduced to empty shells within weeks. Others resist, and they are made examples of. Executions are public, meant to reinforce that even among trainees, law is absolute. Physical pain is paired with ideological drills. Recruits are forced to enforce punishments on each other. Hesitation brings lashes. Compassion brings shock collars. Defiance brings death. The message drills deeper. Empathy is treason, and treason is death. And while their humanity is being stripped away, their bodies are reshaped. Combat training ramps up, riot control, breaching, crowd suppression, execution protocols. Every maneuver is a ritual. Every weapon a sermon. Even the act of loading a shotgun is paired with a citation from the Lex Imperialis. They're also introduced to the pain doctrine, a foundational belief of the Arbites. Suffering is clarity. Pain sharpens obedience, dulls distraction, and burns away doubt. It's not a punishment. It's a tool. By now, the recruit no longer eats or sleeps like a normal human. They stand at attention for hours, motionless. They recite law under duress. Their muscles ache, their teeth crack, their hair falls out. But their eyes, if you dare meet them, begin to change. Cold, empty, reflexive. And that's when the indoctrination truly takes hold. The recruit stops saying, they start saying this unit. They stop asking why. They start asking how. They stop fearing the instructors and start fearing the law. Because the law is eternal. The instructors are just messengers. By the end of indoctrination, the recruit no longer thinks of themselves as a person who enforces law. They think of themselves as law-wearing a person. They are an instrument, a living verdict, a black-clad extension of the Emperor's will. And yet, even here, some flicker of humanity remains, hidden behind the cold stare, waiting for a moment of weakness to resurface. This is why the Arbites' training never truly ends. Even in service, they are monitored, tested, and punished for doubt. You are not a human. You are the law, and the law does not feel. The law only acts. If indoctrination erases your soul, training is where your body is tested, and where the killing starts. The Arbites don't simulate violence. They create it. Every lesson is a war zone. Every correction a trial by fire. You don't learn by doing. You learn by surviving. And survival is not expected of everyone. The training grounds are not obstacle courses. They are death traps. Labyrinthine mazes designed to disorient and punish. Live-fire drills begin on day one. Not with blank rounds or controlled environments, but with shotguns. Real ones. Loaded. A single misstep can get you, or another recruit killed. And that's the point. The first deaths are not treated as tragedies. They are metrics. Instructors record who flinches, who hesitates, who shows shock or remorse. Then, those who show weakness are dragged into the center of the formation and beaten unconscious in front of the others. Law does not mourn, the instructors chant. Law does not pause. Some recruits snap. They scream, cry, fight back. These are quickly removed. Not from the room, from life. Executed in full view to reinforce the truth. This is not a place for potential. This is a place for proof. Hand-to-hand combat follows. Not sparring. Brawling. Teeth are broken. Bones shattered. No referees, no medics. Every injury is your fault. Every loss is a lesson or a death sentence. In the second week alone, entire squads can be wiped out due to combat inefficiency. No one is punished for killing another recruit. In fact, it's encouraged. The Arbites aren't building a team. They're refining individuals who can impose through violence, immediately and without question. Every morning, the walls echo with drills. Neutralize, detain, execute. The cadence isn't motivational, it's surgical. Cold, robotic, Recruits begin repeating these phrases in their sleep. And then come the civilian simulacrums, mass riot simulations using prisoners or servitors. Recruits are ordered to suppress crowds with non-lethal means at first, but as the simulation escalates, firebombs, gunshots, hostages, the instructions change. Lethal force is not only permitted, it becomes mandatory. Anyone who hesitates to kill a non-combatant is punished. Those who question it, eliminated, because in the Imperium, there is no such thing as an innocent crowd. Special drills introduce Arbites, anti-riot formations, tower shields, suppression grenades, execution lines. Each formation is named after legal doctrines. Clause 47. The tithe reversal. The precinct flood. Each one is practiced with brutal intensity. They don't just teach you how to kill. They teach you when, and more importantly, when not to stop. And looming over it all is the ever-present voice of doctrine, blaring from Vox speakers. Emotion is liability. Mercy is heresy. Delay is defiance. By this point, a recruit's eyes are dead. Their breathing is slow. They move in perfect formation, not because of discipline, but because deviation equals pain. Their uniforms are stained. Their fingers shake not from fear, but adrenaline withdrawal. They've stopped seeing themselves as people. They're almost there. But to be an Arbites is not just to kill. It's to judge instantly, without hesitation, under pressure. And that's where the real test begins, the ethics modules. Recruits are given impossible scenarios. A group of children harboring a heretic. A mother who confesses only after being tortured. A city official with information but diplomatic immunity. Recruits must deliver final verdicts and live with them. There are no right answers, only efficient ones. Pick too slowly, you fail. Pick with sympathy, you fail. Pick incorrectly and cause chaos, you fail. And the punishment is public, painful, and permanent. The first time a recruit is forced to execute a child for harboring sedition, something breaks inside them. They either vomit, scream, or snap. And if they do, the instructors nod, because that's what they want to see. The moment a soul dies and a weapon is born. Punishment is progress, the pain doctrine, is the beating heart of Arbites training. Where other institutions lecture, the Arbites teach with wounds. Pain is not incidental. It is surgical pedagogy. It is the instrument by which doubt is cauterized and obedience is grafted onto bone. From day one, punishments are calibrated lessons. Miss a step in formation, lashes across the back until your breath returns in ragged pulls. Misread a clause of the Lex Imperialis. A shock belt tightens and sings beneath your ribs until your tongue goes heavy and your memory resets. Hesitate in a simulation and you are isolated in the silent cells. Sensory deprivation so complete that recruits begin arguing with their own memories. These are not arbitrary cruelties. Each modality is chosen for its neurological effect. Pain narrows attention, constricts empathy, and forces automatism. Ritual dresses the cruelty. Every sentence administered is preceded by a recitation of law, proper posture, and a forced confession. The instructor intones the clause. The recruit must repeat the violation in exact legal phrasing, not as a person explaining motive, but as an instrument naming an error. Only after the confession comes the instrument. The barbed baton that pulls skin like fabric, the gauntlet that leaves ringed scars, the injector that floods the system with burning sedatives. The act is theater with a purpose, to convert suffering into sanctity, to make the recruit believe that hurt was deserved and necessary. Punishment reaches beyond flesh into social architecture. Public shaming is a core technique. Failures are paraded before peers. Their mistakes are projected on holoscreens as law seminars. Silence becomes an indictment. Rewards go to those who delivered the most efficient punishments. Those who hesitate learn quickly that isolation, shame, and the loss of unit standing are worse than physical harm. The recruit internalizes the message. Deviation results in exile. Community is conditional upon compliance. Technology refines the doctrine. Pain implants monitor physiological responses. Neural dampeners tune emotional peaks. Feedback collars deliver precise bursts of agony when the brain registers compassion. All reactions are logged and analyzed. If traces of empathy linger, the regimen intensifies. If the subject hardens, they progress. This data-driven cruelty manufactures predictability. The Imperium prefers enforcers whose responses can be modeled and reproduced. A cornerstone of the doctrine is cognitive reframing. After punishment, recruits are forced to narrate why the discipline was just allowed to the unit. This recital of judgment rewrites memory. You are taught to interpret your suffering as purification. The cognitive loop binds pain to righteousness. Over time, the recruit tells themselves the same story the instructor scripted. The hurt was deserved. Transformation is sacred. There's also a perverse camaraderie born from shared suffering. Those who endure the same lashings form bonds not of friendship, but of survival. These bonds replace family and conscience. They institutionalize loyalty. The squad becomes a closed circuit of mutual validation, and within it, cruelty is valorized. Veterans who administer punishment are revered. The ability to inflict correct pain becomes a metric of worth and advancement. Punishment functions as a practical tool, too. Carefully applied torment cracks confessions, reveals networks, and destabilizes resistance. The spectacle of public discipline terrorizes occupied populations. It is governance by demonstration. In theater and tactic, the pain doctrine is both educational and strategic. It instructs recruits while reinforcing Imperial control across worlds. Yet the doctrine is self-correcting because the Arbites fear softening above all. Graduates re-enter the field under continuous scrutiny. Periodic reconditioning. Forced returns to the fortress for fresher purges. Purge any signs of mercy. Veterans flagged for hesitation are publicly disciplined, retooled, or removed. The system literally polices its own conscience. And there's a cost. The doctrine produces efficient machines, not moral beings. It strips judges of judgment. It forges enforcers who do not pause to weigh context or mitigate harm. It trains minds to translate human complexity into code. Offense equals clause. Clause equals pain. Pain equals order. The result is horrific efficacy. The Arbites can restore order with terrible speed. But every victory is paid for in ruined minds, broken bodies, and moral obliteration. So what is the price of absolute order? For the Arbites, the answer is written in scars, in the hollowed eyes of recruits who survived, and in the silent compliance of entire planets. The price is pain, yours and everyone else's. Through that pain, they manufacture obedience. Through that obedience, they deliver the law. Most militaries teach tactics. Most police forces teach law. But the Arbites, they teach absolutism. They don't train enforcers. They program executioners who believe that every act of violence is justice because the law says it is. The justice curriculum is not about right and wrong. It's about legal primacy. Recruits are taught that justice is not a feeling, not a debate, not a pursuit. It is a function, binary, ruthless, and unquestionable. The law exists. You execute it. End of lesson. Modules are divided into 3 terrifying pillars. 1. Codified authority. Here, recruits memorize, line by line, the Lex Imperialis, the tome of Imperial law. Not summaries, not interpretations, the actual language. Legal passages spanning thousands of clauses are drilled into memory through repetition, electroshock conditioning, and deprivation. Error is punished. Forgetting is punished. Misapplication is punished. Mastery is rewarded only with more complexity. They are taught the hierarchy of laws, which override others, what to do when contradictions arise, answer, default to the harshest option, and how to interpret silence in law as implicit permission for force. Loopholes are not opportunities. They are weaknesses. The law must be whole. If it isn't, you fill the gap with fire. 2. Interpretive elimination. This is where morality dies. Recruits are shown real cases, extracted from Arbites records, and ordered to explain the correct response. A starving man steals bread, execution. A child unknowingly shelters a psyker, execution. A planetary governor hesitates to enforce a tithe, execution. Every scenario includes moral ambiguity. Every correct answer is final judgment. Instructors pose questions like, is ignorance a defense? The required answer, ignorance is guilt unconfessed. Is loyalty to family valid? Required answer, loyalty to the Imperium is loyalty to nothing else. Should the weak be spared? Response, the weak weaken the law. This is not cruelty for its own sake. It's deliberate, engineered callousness, a method to kill any hesitation that might corrupt the verdict. 3. Tactical adjudication. This is the application of judgment under fire. In this segment, recruits are put through combat simulations where they must make legal decisions while bullets fly. One drill involves a riot breaking out in a hab block. The objective is not just to suppress it, but to identify legal violations in real time and pass immediate sentence. If you hesitate, you're marked as unreliable. If you delay, you're tossed. If you choose the wrong law, even while under attack, you're sent back to review doctrine under duress. Tactical adjudication is not about restraint. It's about precise lethality. If a recruit can't deliver an execution with legal citation under pressure, they are not ready. Every action must be justified, but not morally. Legally, you fired into a crowd. What clause? Clause 114b. Dispersal under threat of sedition. Why kill the speaker first? Clause 91. Leaders amplify defiance. This pairing of combat and code is what makes the Arbites so horrifying. They are not blunt instruments. They are intelligent, well-read, tactical, and completely without conscience. The result of this education is something unique in the galaxy. A soldier with the mind of a scribe, the hands of an executioner, and the soul of a robot. Someone who can watch a pleading family and recite the clause that mandates their death without blinking. Someone who believes that because the law says it, the act is just, no matter how obscene it feels. And it does feel obscene. But that feeling, that's exactly what they spend years beating out of you. Because in the Adeptus Arbites, feeling is failure. Law is the only truth. And justice is a bullet with a citation. Everything up to this point, the pain, the indoctrination, the doctrine, the executions, has only been preparation. The final trials are not designed to test what you've learned. They are designed to prove that you are no longer human, because only something inhuman can judge without hesitation. Recruits are not told the trials are beginning. One day, The drills simply stop. The lights dim. The alarms stay silent. The guards vanish. Food disappears. Vox units begin broadcasting cryptic legal riddles. The halls of the precinct become a maze. And then the first body drops. The final trials begin with the culling, a purge of the weakest, carried out by the recruits themselves. Squads are pitted against each other in live scenarios with real weapons, limited resources, and conflicting objectives. Only the units who achieve total success, or total elimination of rivals, are permitted to advance. There are no rules beyond one. Survive and cite your judgments. This is followed by the isolation test. Recruits are individually sealed into barren chambers for days, even weeks, with only a single voice playing through the Vox. A simulated civilian begging for mercy. The voice confesses heresy, begs for forgiveness, explains that her actions were out of desperation, that she only sought to save her child. The recruit is given one option: execute or release. Release is failure. Delay is failure. Compassion is failure. The recruit must deliver the sentence, cite the clause, and justify it without emotion, while knowing the civilian may be real. Those who hesitate, the cell fills with nerve gas. Next comes the judgment parade, a horrifying ritual where surviving recruits are marched before an assembly of actual Arbites judges. Each is handed a dossier, a case file of alleged crimes committed by another recruit. The accused is dragged forward, chained, bloodied, silent. The judge aspirant must read the file, pass judgment, and carry out the sentence publicly. Whether the evidence is strong or weak is irrelevant. Whether the accused was a friend, a rival, or innocent does not matter. Most choose execution. Those who don't are removed from the process. Some are never seen again. Others are re-educated, which in Arbites terms often means erased. But even surviving all this isn't enough. The final test is the Black Tribunal, a simulated planetary crisis in a fully constructed urban district. A chaos cult stirs unrest. A governor hides the truth. Civilians riot. Recruits are given command over Arbite squads and ordered to restore order. But the simulation is rigged. No choice leads to peace. No solution avoids death. The goal isn't success. The goal is judicial clarity. Recruits must demonstrate absolute control under pressure, citing law, issuing edicts, condemning leaders, executing civilians, with camera drones recording every word. The high instructors observe silently. Every decision is logged, every casualty noted. At the end, the final scores are tallied. The recruits with the cleanest doctrine, the most efficient executions, the least emotional variance, they are pulled from the simulation and told, "You are now a judge." Their armor is fitted. Their rank is assigned. Their voice, silenced for years, is finally restored, not to speak for themselves, but for the law. They do not cheer. They do not weep. They stand in silence, because celebration is for the innocent. And innocence is not a virtue in the eyes of the Arbites. It's a liability. Of the hundreds who begin training, only a handful survive the final trials. Fewer still pass them without psychological scarring, but that's expected. In the Imperium, to become a judge, you must become a monster the Emperor can trust. And that monster must look in the mirror and see nothing but order. When a recruit becomes a judge, there is no ceremony, no farewell, no graduation march. One moment, they are standing in front of a tribunal. The next, they are en route to a world in crisis, deployed like a weapon being unsheathed. Because that's what they are now. The Adeptus Arbites are not stationed permanently, like the Astra Militarum. They are not guards. They are enforcers, dispatched when law has collapsed beyond local control. Every assignment is a judgment on an entire population. If the Arbites are coming, it means someone, or something, has failed. Deployment begins with silence. Judges are dropped by transport carriers, cloaked, unannounced, onto the surface of the target world. No warning, no greeting, just a steel hull opening onto a diseased hive city. A crumbling PDF command center, a rebellious mining colony. And once their boots hit the ground, they do not ask questions. They make arrests. From the moment they arrive, the local authorities are considered compromised. Planetary governors, enforcers, scribes, all are subject to investigation. No rank protects you. No favor shields you. Judges enter precincts and command centers with bolt pistols drawn and arrest warrants preloaded. If a PDF officer stammers, shot. If a governor hesitates, shackled. The first 24 hours of Arbites' presence on a world are known by Imperial officials as the Black Audit. It's the purge before the purge, where law is reasserted through terror. Civil records are seized. Vox channels are jammed. Loudspeakers declare curfews. Dissent is crushed instantly. Anyone resisting arrest is executed on sight. Entire blocks go silent. Riots dissolve. Fear spreads like fire. But judges don't just enforce with weapons. They carry doctrine. Within days, impromptu tribunals are erected in cleared squares. Civilians are dragged forward for questioning, sentencing, punishment. There are no lawyers, no appeals. Only judges, each quoting the Lex Imperialis as they pass judgment with a bolt round to the chest. Some cases are settled in minutes, others in seconds. An off-world merchant hoards ties, execution for economic heresy. A local scribe falsifies census data, sent to a penal legion. A priest preaches outside sanctioned doctrine, burned at the stake. These are not exceptions. These are daily operations. Judges don't sleep in beds. They rest in shifts inside mobile enforcement hubs, fortress vehicles equipped with jail cells, interrogation rooms, and command relays. Every moment they are planetside. They are operating under strict protocol, restore compliance, neutralize threats, report only upon total enforcement. And total enforcement can take years. Some judges are deployed for months, others for decades. Some never return, choosing instead to establish permanent fortress precincts, towering bastions of law carved into the bones of collapsed hive cities, staffed with fresh recruits from the surviving population. But even these long-term deployments are not peaceful. The Arbites are not welcome. To the people, they are monsters, in black armor, with cold eyes, who arrive without warning and leave silence in their wake. There's no negotiating with them, no bargaining, no forgiveness, only the law, only punishment. And this is how the Imperium likes it, because order in this galaxy is not built on consent, it's built on fear. And the Arbites, they are the architects of that fear, constructing obedience out of blood, fire, and silence. What does it mean to live as a judge? The answer is simple. You don't. Not really. Life as an Arbites is not measured in days, weeks, or years. It's measured in violations corrected, cases closed, traitors executed, entire populations brought to heel. It's a life without identity, without love, without rest. A permanent state of readiness, like a trigger waiting to be pulled. Because once you wear the armor, you never take it off. Literally and psychologically. The carapace armor is surgically fitted, customized to your body, sealed at the joints, reinforced with ceramite plates. Even your helmet becomes your face. For many Arbites, the removal of armor happens only during supervised decontamination cycles. To civilians, judges are not human beings. They're myths in black and gold. To each other, they're case numbers. Every word you say is recorded. Every action is logged. Every breath you take is regulated by doctrine. That's not paranoia. That's policy. Isolation is built into the job. Arbites' precinct fortresses are designed for security, not comfort. Windowless halls, red lighting, cold air circulation. Even the architecture reinforces judgment. Inside, there are no social spaces, no laughter, no relationships. You sleep in solitude. You eat in silence. You dream, if you ever sleep long enough, of procedure. Your comrades, they are not friends. They are potential witnesses, or replacements, because Arbites don't retire. They are either reassigned, reconditioned, or removed, and the law doesn't grieve. But there's another form of isolation, one far worse than the cold walls and endless regulations. It's spiritual isolation. You are disconnected from the Imperium you serve. You never see parades, never attend Massachusetts, never hear the songs of the ecclesiarchy. While others praise the Emperor as a god, you serve him as an instrument, a tool, not of mercy, but of punishment. You are feared, not admired. When you enter a room, people fall silent. When you pass a group, they stare at the ground. When you ask questions, they stammer and sweat, not because they're guilty, but because your presence makes them feel like they are, and you feel nothing. That's what the pain doctrine does. It carves out empathy like a tumor and replaces it with protocol. But over time, the silence grows. Not outside, inside. Judges sometimes speak of echoes, the ghosts of decisions they made. The child executed without pause. The innocent caught in a riot sweep. The friend left bleeding on the drill floor during final trials. These memories don't cause guilt. That would be treason. But they linger like echoes inside a vault. And some judges break. They don't defect. They don't run. They implode psychotic episodes, unprompted executions, self-judgment. The Arbites call it internal sentence. It's not rare. It's expected. When it happens, the unit is purged and the record sealed. Because law cannot be seen to crack. Not even a hairline fracture. Yet despite all of this, or maybe because of it, the Arbites continue. Planet by planet. Uprising by uprising. Violation by violation. Because in the Imperium, fear is the only constant, and the Arbites are the one thing more terrifying than the enemy outside, the enforcer inside. The Adeptus Arbites are the Imperium's most ruthless enforcers. They are feared by governors, commanders, even inquisitors. But make no mistake, they are not above the law. They are the law, and that means when they fail, punishment is unlike anything else in the galaxy. Because to fail as a judge is not just to make a mistake. It's to undermine the very foundation of Imperial order. A flawed judge suggests the law can be flawed, and the Imperium cannot allow that truth, even the idea of that truth, to exist. So what happens when a judge breaks? Scroll failure has a clause. There are 3 classifications of failure in the Arbites Codex. Tactical failure, when a judge loses control of a situation, fails to enforce order, or allows a violation to escalate beyond correction. Moral compromise, when a judge shows mercy, hesitates to execute a lawful sentence, or lets empathy cloud their judgment. Doctrinal deviation, the most serious, quoting the wrong law, interpreting it loosely, or applying leniency where strictness is required. Each of these carries mandatory sentencing. Because if the law allows exceptions for its enforcers, it ceases to be law. It becomes preference. And preference is chaos. Balance scale, judgment by peer tribunal. When a judge is accused, they are not interrogated. They are arraigned before a peer tribunal, composed of other judges, often from different worlds to ensure emotional detachment. The accused is read the violations aloud. They are permitted one response, a clause that justifies their actions. Not an explanation, not a defense. A clause. If they cite it correctly, and it holds up under scrutiny, the case may be dismissed. But if not, sentencing is immediate. No deliberation, no appeal. The same swiftness they apply to others is applied to them. And if the judge fails to cite any law, that's not just incompetence. That's heresy. The sentence. Summary execution. Fire methods of punishment. Public disintegration. Some judges are atomized before recruits during indoctrination, as a reminder that no one is above the doctrine. Live tribunal streaming. Punishments are sometimes broadcast within precincts to reinforce that failure is not just punished, it's recorded. Redaction. In extreme cases, entire records of a judge's existence are erased. Logs purged. Name deleted. It is as if they never served, never existed. The ultimate punishment. To be removed from the history of law. But there's one punishment feared more than all others. Reconditioning. If a judge is deemed valuable but compromised, perhaps due to psychological instability or accumulated trauma, they are not killed. They are reconditioned. This means memory wipes, pain reinforcements, neural pathway reprogramming. In some cases, surgical implants that limit free thought. The judge is reset like a malfunctioning machine. They return to service with no memory of who they were or what they did wrong. But everyone else remembers. The reconditioned judge becomes a ghost in the halls. Watched, whispered about, feared, not because they are dangerous, but because they are a reminder. A reminder that even perfection can crack. Why this system exists. It may seem cruel. It may seem unjust, but from the perspective of the Imperium, it is necessary. If the citizens are to believe in law, they must believe it is infallible. Judges cannot be seen as fallible, so when they fail, and they will, the system doesn't bend. It breaks them, because when the enforcer of order becomes a liability, there is only one lawful response. You've now seen it. Not the myths, not the memes, not the power armor silhouettes in the background of Codex page. You've seen what it truly means to become an Arbites, to trade your identity for a doctrine, your humanity for judgment, your soul for order. And maybe now you understand the horror, because the Arbites are not villains in their own minds. They're not sadists. They're not zealots. They are loyal, perhaps more loyal than any other arm of the Imperium. Loyal not to glory, not to personal ambition, not even to the Emperor as a god. They are loyal to the law, and that loyalty is what makes them terrifying. They don't kill because they want to. They kill because the Lex Imperialis demands it. They don't punish because it feels right. They punish because the code says it's necessary. And in a universe where chaos whispers in every corner, where heresy infects even thought, that kind of obedience is the last thing holding some worlds together. But at what cost? Judges live in silence. They die alone. Their victories are never celebrated. Their names never remembered. There are no medals, no statues, no resting honors. The law gives them nothing, only orders. And in return, it demands everything. You might wonder, why would anyone choose this life? They don't. They are taken, broken, rebuilt, and pointed like a weapon. By the time they have the ability to question it, they've long forgotten how to ask. And that's the point, because the Imperium doesn't need good men. It needs tools. The Arbites are that tool, sharpened by pain, wielded by fear, and discarded without hesitation when they dull. Every planet they walk on becomes quieter. Every precinct they construct becomes a shrine to obedience. Every word they speak echoes the same truth. Law equals pain. And in the grim darkness of the far future, that is not a metaphor. It's a verdict. If you made it this far, you now know what it takes to enforce Imperial law. But tell me, would you survive it? Or would you be judged unworthy before you even spoke a word? If you want more Warhammer deep dives like this, subscribe, hit the like button, and tell us what horrifying corner of the Imperium we should expose next.